Hello programmers. In today's class we'll see how we can use macros as a function. But before we begin, you have to understand what are functions. Functions and subroutines are line of code that you use more than once. That means you need to declare it or define it once only, and then you can call it more than once or many number of times, any number of times. The purpose of functions and subroutine is to save time and space by just calling a function and subroutine. That means if you need some task to be performed again and again, instead of writing the code for that particular task, you can define it inside a function and then you can reuse it. You don't need to write the same code again and again. You just need to call your function or use your function. There is hardly a difference between the two. That means there is only few differences between functions and subroutine, except that a function returns a value, whereas a subroutine just repeat line of code. That means a function is supposed to return a value, whereas subroutine just repeats whatever the line of code is written in the subroutine's body. So in simple words, if I say, functions are in any programming language, they are the program fragment that knows how to perform a task. For example, you can write a function that finds the product of two numbers. You have to just write the function definition once only, and then you can call it many times without having to rewrite it again. You all are familiar with the built-in functions, like you have seen some, you have used max, min, average, count. These are all built-in functions. That means they are the predefined ones. You don't need to define it. You can call it any number of time, and these functions come with the programming language itself. That's why we call it as built-in functions. Now, apart from built-in function, user can define his or her own function. They are known as user-defined function. So in today's class, we'll see how we can define our own function. So for defining user-defined function or your own function, you have to go to Tools menu, select Macros, then Organize Macros, and then you can select Basic from the programming language. Now this is the name of the file, as I have named my file as demo macro. So I'll click on this file, and then there is no any library, so I'll make a new, and then I can directly make a module here. So the name of my module, the default is module 1. I'll click OK because I don't want to change the module name. And when I click on OK, I'll get the this basic IDE. This is the OpenOffice basic IDE, which is integrated development environment. So I'll explain you what are these things. This is rem. Rem means remark, and it is used to give comment in our basic. This is a programming language, so this is used to give comment, provide comment. Now what are comments? Comments are lines which are ignored by the programming language, and it is not executed actually. You can also give comment by using a single quote, and you can write in single quote your comments. Yeah, this way you can write your comments. So these are ignored by the programming language. Now coming to the next line, which is submain and end sub. OpenOffice creates an empty subroutine named main. So this is subroutine. Subroutine start with keyword sub, and this is the name of the subroutine, main. So OpenOffice will always create a subroutine. This is empty as there is no any code written for it. So it does nothing actually. That's why it's empty. Defining a subroutine with sub, individual macros are stored in this subroutine, which is defined with the keyword sub. So sub stands for subroutine. So when we create an individual macro, or when we record a macro using macro recorder, a subroutine is automatically created by basic. Now the end of the subroutine is indicated with the word end. END sub. That means it is the end of subroutine. Now one more thing you have to remember, which is star basic is not a case sensitive language for keywords. That means you can even write capital END, or it can be completely small END, that is also okay, or it can be this way, first letter is capital and remaining small. So it's not case sensitive. Now I'll show you one example where I'll use a macro recorder and I'll record a macro, and that subroutine will be created by basic. And then I will show you how to write a function for any program. I'll show you one example. I'll go to calc, and then in this sheet 2 I'll write few numbers. Let it be for some random numbers, 12 and then 11 and then maybe 32 and one more number. These are the numbers. What I'll do is I'll use sorting here, and I will record my macro. So for recording you have to go to tools and then macro and then record macro. So this has started. I'll select the data or the range, and then I can select out of these you want to sort it in ascending order or descending order. I'll click on descending because I will arrange it in descending order. Once done, I'll click on the stop recording, and now I will give this macro a name. This may be sort number. I'll use sort num, and then I will click on this save. So the numbers were in range B1 to B6. I told you the limitation in my last class that you have to use the same cell addresses whenever you want to run your macro. After finishing the recording, now you can run macro in any number of sheet, but just one thing you have to remember, you have to keep the same cell addresses. So the cell address is from B1 to B6. I'll go to sheet 3 and B1 to B6. I'll type few numbers, maybe and one more number. Yeah. Now after finishing it, I'll go to run my macro. I'll go to tools and then macro, and I will run macro. So after this I'll click on this demo and standard, and this is my module, and this is the macro I want to run. This is the macro I've made for sorting. Click on run, and then you can see your data is arranged in descending order. Now let us go and check the subroutine which is created by basic. So you can check this. This is the subroutine which is automatically created by basic language. This is sub and sort num, and this is the coding for the sorting. Now let us start with creating our own function. I told you you can write function for any functionality. Here I am going to define a function to find the product of two numbers. So what I'll do, I'll start with the keyword function and then give a space, and then you can give it any name. I'll give it as multiply. Now inside this I'll take few arguments. Now what are arguments? I'll explain you. So I have to take the same name multiply, and then equal to. This equal to is known as assignment operator in any programming language. So what I am doing here is I am using this assignment operator, and I am assigning the value of a multiply by b, and these are the arguments which are defined at the time when we define our function. And when you are using the function, you have to replace these arguments with the values or by reference. I'll explain you that also. And after finishing the coding, I have to end it, and I will write end function. I told you it's not case sensitive, so it can be capital, small, no matter. I'll explain the program once again. See, for writing a function for any task, you have to begin it with function keyword. This is a keyword, so you cannot misspell it. Keywords are the reserved words of any programming language, so you cannot do any spelling mistake here. And now after function, give a space and give any name to your function. I have given it name as multiply. And what I have done, inside your function will have a parenthesis. So inside this parenthesis I have taken two arguments. Always remember, arguments are separated with comma when you define a function. What I've taken here, I've taken multiplication operator, and I've done a into b. Whatever argument is supplied at the time of calling the function or using the function, that will be passed to a and b, and then it will be multiplication operator will be used, and the value whatever the result is coming, it is assigned to this multiply. And this is the function body, and after defining your function you have to close it by using end function. So I have defined my function multiply. Now I'm going to use it in my calc. I'll go to sheet. You can go to any cell. Just type equal to sign and the name of your function. My function name was multiply. And in this round bracket you have to give the arguments. Now you can give numbers or you can even give the cell addresses. I'll call my function by using numbers first. So I'm taking 2 and then separating with semicolon. Just remember this, while calling or using your function you have to separate your values with semicolon. This time not comma, you have to give semicolon. And 3. So I'll close my round bracket and this name. Just let me check what is the problem here. I've given multiply, multiply. Let me check it. Yeah. So I have given a wrong spelling here, mul, because here I've used the correct spelling and here I have misspelled it. So now let me check it. I'll give assignment operator and multiply. In this parenthesis give the value, it could be any value, let it be 7 semicolon and 8. So this way I have used my function. You can use it anywhere. It's not the limitation with the calling function like it was there for macro recorder. You have to use the same cell addresses, but you can call your function anywhere. Function name was multiply. So here I have used the numbers. Now in this argument while calling the function I will use cell address now. So this is B1, so I'll use B1, and for separating the arguments semicolon again, and this is B2, so I'll give B2 cell address and then close the round bracket, enter key. So this is giving me the product of these two numbers. 89, we can check it by using 89 multiply by this thing. So it's coming correct. So this is the way we define our function. Let me this was the function we have taken with argument. I'll show you one more function where I will not take any argument, that means empty parenthesis function, and then now I will use display and I will just display first of all I'll display number. Let me use, I have to use same name, equal to, and then for displaying numbers you can use any number and then you can end it end and your function keyword you'll use. So the name of my function is display, and here also I've used the correct spelling. I'm going to, no need to save it, just go to your calc and then call it anywhere. Name was display and empty parenthesis, as during the definition I have not given any argument, so no need to give any argument when you are calling it. Just give the name and empty parenthesis. See this, and enter key. So this will give me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give, instead of this number I'm going to display something else. This time I'm going to display a string. So I'm writing hello programmers and closing the double quotes. So for writing your string means text. So for displaying text you have to use double quotes. Inside double quotes I've written hello programmers. I'll go to calc and then I will call the same function. Function name is display and then empty parenthesis. So this will display the string I've written during the definition. So this time I've displayed the string. Let me display date also. So for displaying the date I'm going to use a built-in function which is now and now, and this is, as I've told, it is a function, so it has empty parenthesis, and I have assigned the value in my display function, and I'm going to call the display function again. As you have seen, I'm editing or updating the same function, but it's not changing the values in the previous called function. So this is the advantage, and even you can call it anywhere in any cell address, any sheet. You can go to sheet 2 also, and then you can call the name of my function is display, and I have used now, so it will display you the date. This is the current date and the current time. So you can use a built-in function also. So this way you can use function to store any kind of value. I have shown you three different data types. I have shown you the numbers, the string, and the date also. Now I'll show you one more example. In this example, I'll take two arguments, and this will be a function for finding the minimum of two numbers. That means I'll could give two numbers, and out of which this coding will find out which among them is the smallest. So for this, I'll take the same keyword function for defining our function, give it any name. I'll give min num. I'll give it as min num. So as I've told you, it will take two arguments, that means two values while calling. So I've taken two arguments, and then here I'll take if. So this is if is also a keyword, and after this if I'm going to write condition here. So for writing condition, I'm using the relational operator. This is known as less than. So I'm writing a less than b. So if a is less than b, then it's also a keyword which you have to use after giving your condition. And then what to do, assign that value in min num. The name of my function is min num, so I'll take min num only, is equal to, and a's value will be assigned to min num. Else is the part which is where the language compiler or interpreter goes. When this condition is false, it will jump to this place. So here I am using min num is equal to b. That means if a is less than b, a's value will be assigned to min num. Else, that means otherwise, b's value will be assigned to min num. And after this, I have to end my if. So for ending if, you have to use end if, and to end your function, you have to use end function. So I have defined a function to find the smallest of the two numbers. So after defining your function, you can call it many number of times, you can call it anywhere, and the name of my function was min num. So I am writing equal to and min num. Now while calling, you may use you can pass the argument by value or by reference. I told you both the ways, so I'll show you both the ways. I'll pass 8 and then semicolon 9. So this is by value, okay, where I'm giving the values min num and 8 semicolon 9. So out of 8 and 9, 8 is minimum. And then now what I'll do is I'll take two numbers in different cell addresses, may it be 12 and 67, and the cell addresses G3 and G4, and now I am going to use the reference. So name was min num, and then I am going to use the cell address. This is G3, so I'll type G3 semicolon, and this is G4. So I'll type G4, and then so out of these two numbers, 12 is the minimum, or it's the smallest number. So in this example, I have called my function by reference, or passed the argument by reference. And in this example, I have passed the by value. The argument I have passed, it was by value. So this way you can define your function once, and then you can call it any number of time. You can use it anytime, anywhere. Just use equal to and the name of your function. So this is the user defined function, where the user can provide the coding. You have to remember one more thing, that whichever macro or function you have defined, they do not behave as a built-in function. Built-in function are these functions like sum, min, max. So you cannot find your macro name or your function name inside the built-in function names provided in the list. But if you want to make it possible, that means if you want it to be a part of built-in function, then you can use by writing an add-ins. So that also can be done. And one more thing is, after finishing or after completing your work, if you want to delete your macro or the defined function, you can even do that by selecting a macro, organize macro, and then basic, and then you can select any of your macro. As you can see, it appears in this list. Whichever functions you have defined in basic, you can see we have defined sort num, multiply, display, min num, and then after finishing your work, or if you want to delete it, you can delete just by selecting your macro and then clicking on delete. It will delete your macro, and after deleting, if you want to run it, it will not be displayed. Like I have deleted a display also, and I have deleted multiply also. So after deleting, if you want to use it, I'll call my function display. It will not be possible now. I'll type equal to end display. This will not be, this is not, as you can see, it gives error. So after deleting your macro, it gives error. So that's all for today's class. We'll meet in next class.